Hey everybody, John here, aka Silverback, aka 7800 Pro System Gamer. And today I got a special episode for everybody. The feedback I've gotten the most is that people really like to hear about the development of these games. So for my first homebrew game that I've completed, I managed to get Todd Furmanski, aka Revontuli, and Cousin Vinnie from Atari7800 Forever and Big and Funky Productions to do the voiceover with me. Now, this voiceover was originally done live on the Big and Funky Atari7800 Forever Podcast. There will be a link in the description to the original podcast. We did another 20 minutes that isn't included in this video, where we talked more about Revontuli's other games. And I'll also have a link to where you can purchase Revontuli's games at Atariage.com. So make sure you check those out. Make sure you give this video a like, subscribe, do all that YouTube stuff. Without further ado, here we all are talking about Dragon's Havoc, the first homebrew game that I've managed to complete.
Well, this is if you wait through, I put the very first thing that powers on, if you let it idle, it goes to the instructions.
Right.
And I have that be the very first thing that happens when you power on the console, mainly because the first couple of streamers didn't get the main mechanic. They just held down the button and were wondering why they were losing.
Oh, okay.
So it was.
Yeah, it was. I noticed if I wouldn't have touched a button, the directions come up. So that was because it was too hard.
No, it wasn't intuitive. Like, people need to be told. I mean, I saw just a couple people like streaming, like playing for 3 minutes. They're going through like 20 other games, and this is one of them. And again, it'd be like just somebody cold playing Pac-Man. Never played Pac-Man before. Didn't know what Pac-Man was. Not realizing the Energizers allowed you to eat ghosts. And they're like, they would play through and say, I can't eat ghosts. Why do the ghosts keep killing me? This game is dumb. And then quit, and then, so I'm like, okay, I need to at least do what I can to tell people, you can't just hold down the button. You gotta be accurate, which gets harder because the more accurate you are, the faster you are, which means it's more likely that you're going to miss, which means to slow you back down.
Right.
It's a mess. And John, you kind of suck in here, but I know on the first level. I thought you'd be a little bit.
I suck through the whole thing. You think I'm great at these games, but I'm not.
I like this. This kind of looks like what Sentinel should have looked like. It's got parallax scrolling. It's got these backgrounds. I think, did I review this game for the website or did you?
I did.
You did.
Yeah. So
I think this game, the graphics get better as it goes too. And I think that it's fine here, but I think later on it's like, wow, this is a really cool looking world.
Well, Todd, you implied some great effects, especially for one of the later boss battles. And as you get further in the game, are you getting closer to that city in the background? Is that the idea?
Yeah, the idea is, there's kind of ruins and stuff, and then, that you kind of get, they're scattered throughout, but the idea is that you're going toward this, like, one of the bigger ones that, there's, and again, nobody knows, the ruins are there, dragons don't really care about these things, but what amounts to the plot is like, a couple did go into one of the larger ones, and this is what kind of the kerfuffle's about.
So what's the story of these two dragons? Are they brothers? Are they, what's happening with the Storms and the Embers guys?
There's kind of, there's an elemental motif. Yeah, there's, with Embers being like, fire and stone, and fire and earth, and Storms being, wind and sea. And so there's kind of the, mechanically there's a whole lot of a difference, but the idea is that they represent kind of these elemental forces of nature. And you don't want to take off a giant fire or a hurricane. So that's kind of what they adopt themselves. And as we come up, we'll find, a lot of dragons seem to like titles. We're going to probably find in just a minute that the first dragon monarch you meet has his own little title, and there's a bit of a theme going through it that I don't know if you caught on. I played a little fast and loose with the terminology, but there's 7 main dragons, and spoiler alert, a little surprise at the end.
Yep.
What does that mean then? There's 7 dragons, so what does that signify?
7 of a lot of things. I often will use 7 just if I need a number for things. That even Dragon's Descent, I kind of made 7 levels. Like, you beat the boss at the 7th level.
That's right.
So here, was the idea always to have like the 3 stages intermix. So you're always outside at first, then you go through a cavern, and then a boss battle. Was that?
Yeah, that tended to work out okay. And again, each one, I'm using a little technical trick. It'd be hard to kind of do it all at once, but I could have a nice parallax, pretty stage without any real obstacles, but a lot of enemies.
Oops.
Then an internal one that doesn't have a scrolling background, but I can put in blocks that you have to dodge and weave around, and then kind of pull out all the stops for like a single screen, large scale sprite dragon that as a boss with kind of a vanguard of critters helping him.
I like that. It kind of, the way that you set this up to where it's outside, then inside maze, and then boss battle, it was easy to. It felt like you were always moving towards something, like you weren't lost somewhere. Dragon of Venom.
Yep, Zilia, Dragon of Venom. I'm
gonna
trying
write
to look
this down.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see what the correlation is here. If
you get the list, there's a couple of names that might come up. But yeah, again, I play a little fast and loose. The actual names themselves, I use as either kind of like some Greek or very old ancient words, often for the term. I think Zilia is Greek for venom or poison. But
okay.
Yeah, see, you're smarter than us. See? This is the problem. This is why we're not having a good time, and I apologize. I like the graphics of this one here. You got the sky upside down here. The clouds are kind of...
You got the rocks moving at different speeds. It looks great.
I like the colors of this one, too.
This was fun. I took a photo of a sunset. I used a photo of a sunset originally for the color palette, but when I used it exactly, it was a little bit too gray, and it actually honestly looked like a Commodore 64 game, so I made it a little more saturated, a little bit brighter. What you get like Atari rainbow bands is a look that if you're not going to have bright, if you're not going to have giant bright rainbow colors on an Atari system, what are you doing?
Exactly. Well, and you look at, there's no flicker, and so anybody who's like a Nintendo fan, suck on this. This is,
right.
This is so much better than what the NES could have done with this game.
Did you make this out of 7800 BASIC?
Yes.
Wow.
That's actually, yeah. It's. I'm honestly kind of amazed, but it's a wonderful tool, and that kind of. If I were doing this in assembly, I'd still be fiddling around trying to make a box move across the screen. This was. People could say, "Oh, you can do more with the assembly. You can do, make it faster, make it do more things." For this, it's good. It's the right tool for the right job.
Oh, it looks great.
I think Bob DeCrescenzo of Pac-Man Plus still uses it, and I know like Muddy Funster I think uses the newer. Yeah, it's interesting that there's different applications because it's like I said, I make videos and movies and stuff, and sometimes I use Mac and sometimes I use PC, and it's just what you're doing.
Yeah,
sometimes it's like playing different basses on different songs or something like that. It's just a different flavor.
Assembly is like. If IKEA furniture, if you get somebody under basic is like a build-it-yourself couch, assembly is like here's a block of wood and an axe. I'm like, you could make a better couch with it, but it'll take a long time, and you're obviously more likely going to have a big mess if you don't know what you're doing.
Oop, a little dark in here. This is where the teenagers go to make out the teenage harpies.
Exactly.
Yeah, the harpies. I like how you introduce the enemies. They get a little bit harder. That's kind of what everybody goes for, but the harpies gave me a hard time for a little bit. And I thought after I mastered the harpies, I had the game beat, but you had you have one enemy I can't stand in this game.
I used that particular enemy very sparingly. And, and that's something even in Dragon's Descent it comes up. That's something people take a long time to figure out is. If you're really on top of things, you can kind of fight everything and try to fight every battle, but running away or kind of just not, sometimes discretion is the better part of valor.
That's what I had to learn. That was the hardest part, was trying not to kill everything on the screen.
Well, that's probably why people who don't like this game, and I'm sure there's some that they're just not patient enough to understand this is a defensive shoot 'em up. This isn't just a game where you get 90,000 power-ups and side ships and the bullets are flying across the screen. It's almost like a pugilist game in a way. You got to take your shots.
I have a question too. With the hitbox for your character, it feels like you were pretty generous with that. Was that on purpose or?
Yeah, I mean it's one of these things. Again, if the hitbox works in your favor, I have never gotten a complaint that the hitbox was
No, you won't hear me complain. No.
If the hitbox is too big, if the hitbox is too big, or it feels like you got hit and you really didn't, I'm gonna get angry letters. If a bullet probably should have hit you, but then you get by, you're like, okay, that's fine. I clearly am a badass and dodged that bullet.
Yeah. The Matrix. We did the Matrix moves on it. So the harpies are. Here we go. Let's
Lenorm, Dragon of Frenzy.
See, I'm not going to get any of this frenzy. Now I'm thinking about robots.
Now I think I did all this in one playthrough. I'll tell you where I started dying a lot, and we'll see.
This dragon looks a little sickly, like he needs some, I don't know, like some insulin or something.
Hey, it looks like an iguana I had once that I forgot I owned for a month.
And then he wound up as a belt.
Yeah.
So you've got a new game coming out called Harpy's Curse. And so is this a bad guy that's turned good? Is that what the
if the setting's kind of shared, I mean, they're all monstrous. Nobody generally thinks of dragons as the good guys. Although if you ask a dragon, though, they're saying they're just doing what they're doing. So yeah, it's I mean, it is. It's a lot of games where you either play a human or you play something that's someone or something that's overtly heroic. But this one, treating like creatures, maybe selfish creatures or maybe self-interested creatures, but
just animals.
But I think it's just something that I kind of like to do is make kind of protagonists that are a little bit outside of the norm.
So does the harpy ever have to fight one of these dragons that we've fallen in love with over the years? Like, does the harpy have to take on the dragon of embers or anything?
That's as light spoiler coming up. It's going to be at a level or a couple levels. The ones that I more or less use the same type of behavior code and ported it in because I needed something that was a bit of a challenge. Harpies. What you're doing in Harpy's Curse. A lot of it's about maze, but it's about exploring and stuff. The enemies are there; they can kind of pose a challenge, but there wasn't like a oh no moment yet. And then I was realized, oh wait, I have a good oh no kind of enemy I can kind of. That I already have from one of my previous games.
That's cool. Yeah, I always thought it would be cool to play when I was a kid, like be a stormtrooper. In the 90s they came out with that type of thing, and that was always a blast to kind of be the bad guys for once. Even though you're saying these are not morally these are all morally ambiguous creatures or whatever.
Yeah, it's more. This is like, maybe there's David Attenborough's like narrating what's going on here because it's like a nature special.
That's a good
Where
one.
we see the Dragon of Storms.
it's on PBS.
Yeah.
Ooh, velvety. This is even more sexy than the last one.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
That was the NES can do a lot of things the 7800 can't, but something that even the 2600 and the 7800 have is a really amazing color palette that nobody ever really, I think, had a more color depth until 16-bit era, and you miss it if you're doing other systems.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, these levels, the cavern levels, almost remind me of like Link 2 or Metroid kind of tile pattern. Is that kind of what you were going for, or
a little bit here? It was one of these things. I think, some levels I think work better than others, and some definitely look I think work out aesthetically better than others. But yeah, this one I wanted like a rocky, rocky background and stuff. Actually, a little bit of these. I kind of after the fact realized this looked a lot like some Mega Man levels.
Oh yeah,
so like the construction theme levels have these kind of nice little rock patterns that.
I will say this: the ornate decorations that you put into Dragon's Descent in this game, I always enjoyed those, and they're, every once in a while you don't overdo them so you don't get sick of them, and then you just go, oh look, it's a Triceratops head, or whatever. It's really kind of sweet.
I just have a callback. Again, one of these things where I didn't have a whole lot of space, so I kind of had to be very selective, but I kind of made sure that, yeah, I had little, these designs that would come back and remind you, have a nice consistency through.
So, could this game have been done back in 89, 90? Is this?
Yeah, I think it could have.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not actually doing anything particularly. This is on stock. This is a 48K ROM. This was like their stock ROM size.
Oh, wow.
Even like,
That's amazing.
I could even convince the bean counters if I had a time machine to 1984, 86. I could probably.
I've often fantasized about going back to Atari with all these homebrews and being like,
yeah.
Hey, fellows, do you want to really give them a run, or what are we doing here?
I'm sure Jack would have went crazy.
He probably would have went, That's too much money.
Yeah, that's way too much.
The future is computers.
I had to edit there. No, I had to edit because I died on this guy so many damn times.
What is he, a lion?
He's Lamia, the dragon of
Fangs.
Of Fangs, that's right.
Fangs.
It's because of them harpies that come above and below you. I mean, this is a tough battle.
This is I made each one different, and even their patterns are subtly different. And yeah, that can make them real jerks. Weirdly, I found a couple of patterns in the later bosses. I'll point out the one that actually I still have the most trouble with, because I kind of got a routine down. When I was doing things like testing the ending, I played the last bosses a lot more than the previous one, so I kind of had a pattern. And again, like it's harder when they move up and down like this, but just going through and getting really close, you can just cut loose.
This guy needs a mint. He's up in your Kool-Aid a little too much. Mm-hmm. I found out a lot of times in these 7800 games that the bosses, the levels sometimes are not, or the levels are out of whack, or sometimes you go deeper and the bosses are easier.
Yeah.
And like even with Muddy Funster's excellent EXO, I figured the boss battles do not. They don't get harder as you go. I felt like some of the later ones were even easier, and I felt like the main boss was the easiest boss of the entire run. So, which is fine for me because I suck at these games and I always like winning at the end. But I always find that this game I didn't get very much further than this, but I did feel like, hey, here's those things again.
Yeah, this game doesn't have that problem.
Yeah, it feels
if you were worried about that, don't be. It gets harder.
Yeah. You've done very well so far, by the way. I was busting your balls earlier, but you're doing good.
Well, I spent about, I think, 10 minutes on that last boss.
Yeah, that was a deal breaker.
This is where it starts picking up. I think this is like even the demo, the first demo I released ended around here, and I kind of wanted to, give a little taste about this is, you're not going to sleepwalk through all the game.
This looks rough.
You can kind of hide in the corner.
I ran away like a sissy.
You can do that. That's valid, and especially if you don't want to. If firing and missing is one of the worst things you can do.
Yep.
So don't take a shot unless you're sure you're going to hit.
It's like a test that penalizes you for guessing.
Yeah, when you get like this, when you can't hardly move, this game it's brutal. It's brutal.
I bet people are griping about that. I can't see the video here. What is that in the background? Is that a city on like a plateau or a mesa?
Yeah,
that's what we're heading towards, right?
Okay.
Yeah, kind of a floating city. And this one, I was playing with things. This is something like the color palette here, the fire. Again, something like the NES wouldn't have this color depth. And seeing it in person on a CRT, it not quite 16-bit, but it looks it's a deeper depth.
This level is gorgeous. I love what you did with the white and the blue. Oh
yes, looks regal.
I even think I mentioned this in the review. Once you get to about here, this game is beautiful.
Looks like an inner city prom.
That's another thing. Like on the CRT, it looks like you have a filter. Like it looks fine on a digital display. But when I try to test out, I have a 12-inch Emerson television.
Hey, quit bragging about that 12-inch over there. Good grief, keep it down. Yeah, you're kind of being a jerk here, Mr. Revontuli, with these.
Oh, it's hard.
Yeah, that's brutal through there.
It's each room.
Yeah, this looks cool.
It's awesome. It looks incredible.
Well, you're about halfway through the game, so you should start getting the hang of things. I feel like I've earned the right to throw a couple curveballs on people who are like, yeah, I got the game. I got to level 4. I can.
Well, I remember that was my fear. Was
that's
the
a
game?
new thing.
Yeah, those things become a major part later in the game.
Walls.
My fear was this game was going to be too easy. I honestly thought, man, I'm flying through these first 4 levels. The first time I played, not this time.
Just to make you feel good.
Yeah, but no.
Are there any? I'm sorry to interrupt you. Are there
No.
any? Can you right through there? Are there any secret holes up or down? It looks like maybe like a little Mario thing, like you could maybe warp one way or the other.
No secrets like that. There are cheat codes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I'm not going to say what they are. To everybody just yet. I know there's a couple of like high score. I also made it so if you do put in a cheat code, it should make it so that you're not allowed to input your name on the high score menu. Just so.
Look at that. That's smart.
But that said, there's a couple of cheat codes. I might private message you guys about some stuff. Might help with things.
That's nice.
So what is that?
This is a big hint.
Yeah, this is cool with the background flashing and stuff.
He's the dragon of what?
Wrath.
Yep.
Oh, Deadly Sins? Is that what we're doing?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Got one.
Yeah.
So I barely skated through this boss battle, I remember.
This one, like, again, even if you're slow, if you kind of keep moving, I mean, you can dance around it, and he kind of stays in front of you. He'll home in on you, which actually makes things a little easier. The harder bosses I found, once you're used to things, like, are the ones that will just move up and down regardless of where you are. So you have to come to meet them. You have to.
I mean, the only thing I could do in this battle was try not to get hit and maybe hit him once every few minutes, I guess. I'm sure this isn't what you intended.
Sometimes I've gotten cases where I get stuck like this. Then you get a couple things where if you get close to them, you can usually fill up the meter pretty quickly. And even if you have 2 or 3 or 4 dots, you move a lot faster.
Yep.
Like it starts, and it can cascade. Once you get halfway, it's easier to fill up the meter. But then if you start a run of misses, you slow down real fast.
Well, the problem with me is the acceleration throws me off. Then I'm used to going like a turtle, and then all of a sudden I'm the hare and I'm flying. Crap.
Once you lose a life, it seems like you lose, 6 lives in a row.
Exactly. A lot of bad stuff can happen at once.
Yeah, that's. I mean, the other kind of last thing. Once you're at the point where if you get hit with the shield, even you slow back down, but that's when you run. That's when you're like you have a couple seconds of grace time.
Ooh, look at this.
Yeah, this is really cool too.
We're inside of something, I think.
It's like a crystal, kind of a crystalline cave.
I feel
again, this is like the palette. You could maybe get something that kind of looks like this on the NES, but again, the
I don't remember.
For all Atari, the 2600 shortcomings, it had 120 colors you could access, and the NES has about 50, 60 maybe. Like that's one reason there's a lot of sunsets in Atari games. You can make really good sunsets.
I think the best ending on the system was a sunset on Fatal Run.
Oh yeah,
mm-hmm.
That part there was difficult too, with the 4 harpies and I don't know the name of the other guy, the little stationary turret.
Yeah, the kind of the guards. I think,
the Janus guards, eh?
yeah.
Like the 2-headed. Yeah.
I remember on my Dragon's Descent review, I said you can't spell Janus without anus. I hated those guys.
Yeah.
I finally got a design that didn't make them look like bread or steak. So
I called them the floating bread too, I think.
I got them into a kind of something that looked more like a mask, and then got a nice little devil or oni or dragon face.
Well, that's a cool little thing there. You got a little you got some defense for the bad guys.
I appreciate those because you could build up your meter real fast with that thing.
That's true. It goes both ways, don't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have many Ojinway power-ups, but then when you see those later in the game, I think when you start seeing those blocks, you're like, okay,
Yeah.
oh, thank goodness, I can fill up my meter on these things.
That's a neat
Yeah.
little twist here halfway through.
Until the end. Then when you see those, you're... I have nightmares of those blocks after
No
playing
idea what
this
you're
game.
talking about. Yeah, no, the harpies are kind of your 9 to 5 just like jerk enemies. Like they're the ones that you're like shaking your fist at most of the time.
Yeah. Oh,
The birds are the harpies, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now here is this. No, this ain't it. Okay. This reminds me of Metroid right here. Them kind of
I like that.
triangle blocks there. It reminds me of
Looks like Princess House.
that too. Yeah.
You got the purple and green. Yeah, doing kind of a crystalline, like, just different kind of block motif going on. And the other little subtle curveball, like, those guys, I call the gargoyles and the skulls that move up and down are 3 shots, and you're used to double tapping.
Yep.
You suddenly have to keep in mind, like, oh right, your rhythm. You need to change your rhythm up.
Yeah, but John did good right there, where he went down and made sure he leveled up his shield. I would have just stayed in the middle.
Well,
and tried not to die.
I like to stay in the narrow passages, but you can't, because I feel safer there for some reason. But you can't do that later.
Well, you got a scramble type thing going on here now, where you can take a wrong turn on a maze and get splatted.
And again, that's part of the element of just playing through it and getting a little further, getting yourself stuck, and
there's a kind of a neat, the common knowledge is like what's a shoot 'em up without power ups, but there's been a lot of good games where you kind of make your own power ups. I mean, the Ikaruga, the game where you're changing black to white, kind of put a lot of that on the map.
Excellent game.
Yeah, and again, that was like there's no power ups, but it's an amazing, and challenging shmup.
I used to play that all the time.
And there's a little bit of just the idea of here that like you're always powering up and powering down. Like that's always a consideration. It isn't. I mean, one of the frustrations in games where you get like a lot of like Gradius and R-Type is you get a ton of power ups, you go doing great, and then suddenly you lose them all, and then you're suddenly okay. Wait, I'm stranded. I might as well just quit the game because
Yeah.
Right.
Was that always the plan to have like a upgrade system like this?
This was an early mechanic. I just had an idea way back when, and it just needed to find a good opportunity to do it.
Was that this
guy actually gives me more trouble than the later bosses.
Oh, really?
The way the patterning is, his vanguard, the other skull guys.
Yeah.
It looks and the kind of fact he doesn't really home in on you, so you kind of have to meet him.
Yep.
The other ones I can kind of troll into moving into my shots. This guy's a little trickier about that.
Yeah, he does.
This guy's more like the dragon from Ninja Golf. He does his own thing.
Yeah. But this looks incredible, like the lighting flashing and stuff. Are you just using different background elements, or how do you do that?
Yeah, it's actually
cool looking. That looks like we're at the bottom of an aquarium or something.
A bit of maybe a little bit of moon control too.
Yeah.
Dig it.
I mean, but at least that's almost a Lost Art. Is just it's really easy to take a color palette and then change one color. So you can take like I could take this background and just make everything black really quickly and easily. And that's like fading in. That's something else I miss. Is like the Atari can do good fading ins because you can't use many colors at once, but it has a lot of colors to choose from. So you can ramps from pitch black. That's a subtle thing in Dragon's Descent.
This looks hand drawn. That's what's amazing about this.
It looks
really
great.
Cool looking.
Oh, thank you. This was
how
one of the things I kept this as one of the last levels as a little bit of a treat.
Yep.
It's like Nintendo on that Super Odyssey game where like this looks like almost a totally different game. Like I would keep getting jacked up thinking I want to hit these reefs in the middle of the screen, and they're in the background. Never mind. Really good. That's really cool looking, dude.
This guy right here.
Yeah, those are I call them dragons, but yeah, they're resemblance to the kind of dragon from Dragon's Descent, the kind of winged snake.
You will never see me shoot one of those because I cannot get the pattern down. I don't know how you do it.
I think that's the point.
You can I've able to take I've taken down a couple.
Yeah.
Occasionally, but then after you got to feel bold. You got to feel a little stupid. Like you got to feel a little reckless because it's often easier to just say no. I'm gonna go ahead, guys.
Hard pass.
But yeah, those are and they're the only enemy that besides bosses that take I think 4 shots. So
they take a ton of shots and they move like crazy.
So yeah,
I should have kept in a few edits of me trying to fight those things because you would have got a kick out of it.
So you see, like as a harpy going to face off against a dragon, I basically put these guys in with very little modification into Harpy's Curse, sparingly. Like it's meant to be like oh no moment.
Yep, it definitely is.
This might be a little familiar if you've played Dragon's Descent.
It looks similar.
A little bit of a kind of maze-like pattern. Even the color palette's based on the first level you're likely to play.
This
is another level. Yeah, it looks cool. I like I
like this.
The kind of like Tetris pieces.
But I also I like this maze design too because it's it's kind of like you're wide open to pick your fate basically.
But yeah, this one again,
Ooh.
Now I like going to the upper ones, the tight corridors. That killed me a few times.
I bet. I saw that.
I try to make it so that you can at least see a dead end coming.
Right.
It's still. There's definitely you got to get you pick a path and you get used to it. And yeah, at this point, this is one of the last levels. Like this is where you're if you're able to pass this the first time, if the game's too easy, I mean, honestly, people play it and then forget it. And so,
man, you were lucky as hell, son. Jeez. Thank God for the invincibility.
All skill. No, it was all luck.
For a little bit, it wasn't a bug. I mean, it was just something I had to balance. But for a little while, like the grace invincibility was in certain situations you could get into a feedback loop where you had just enough time to fill up your meter again, and you were effectively invincible. And you could almost do that with some bosses, but I made it so that you can't just. It was a point where you could like sleepwalk through it. And
No, I think you definitely straddled that line really good, where you have just enough room to sort of maneuver, but it's going to take you about, half a dozen tries at least.
Oh, look at this.
You're out.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't throw. There was that.
Yeah, no, it's the next one.
Oh, this is Marbros again.
The Dragon of Breed.
We beat him before.
Based his ugly mug on. I mean, you're looking at it from a profile, but the horns and tusks and stuff are based off of the graphic from Dragon's Descent.
And what's crazy is just that subtle. You're making the again, I forget what their name is. The enemies kind of dance around a little bit. That screwed with me a whole lot.
Venus Guard.
Yeah,
that is insane looking, dude.
Oh,
you're an evil man, Revontuli.
He is.
God Almighty. But this is I don't know if you know this, John, but this is the boss of the Dragon's Descent.
Yep.
Okay.
I actually went through and beat that after this, I think.
Oh wow! Look at this. Looks like a city. Looks like Coruscant.
So I got the feeling this is where we were going the whole game. Like you saw it in the background, and you still kind of see more of it in the background.
I dig it.
Yeah. So this is kind of city ruins. And again, maybe a little bit of Boom Patrol. It wasn't explicit, but again, in retrospect, like, yeah, this looks a lot like a.
Yeah.
Well, this probably has the best. God, it's between this and Tower Toppler for the best scrolling.
Oh, really?
On the entire system, man. It's a very awesome.
I really like the scrolling on here. I think I was the only one on the forums going, "Oh my God, scrolling!" I was so amazed by this.
This was fun. It was actually, it's one of these things that the 7800, it's that particular, just the way it's made makes this, I mean, a relatively easy, like it's much, much harder to do on the NES, something like this. Just the way it's built. Like the NES has other advantages and stuff, but like the way the Atari's made, like it made this, when I kind of figured that out, I'm like, wait, I could do some really fun stuff with this. And so, yeah, that kind of, that scrolling background was kind of the kernel that made me decide, and I have this like old neat shmup mechanic I kind of want to try doing, and then it all kind of fell into place.
Oh wow!
But yeah, now I kind of I've thrown everything at you.
You're throwing everything.
Yeah, this is got this far. You gotta earn it.
You gotta want it, honey.
And again, there's you compose it, you make rhythms, you get you get moments to relax, even like a longer waiting for the other shoe to drop, and then you have oh no moments.
Yep.
Well, you just had a moment there that was like a break.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not here though.
Well, that's because that's going to lead up to this, which is I mean the dragon enemies are nasty enough on their own, but when they got friends, that's
it becomes near impossible.
So you're using the Nintendo
Look at this.
Entertainment. Yeah, that's ridiculous. So you're using the Nintendo Entertainment Pad for this game, right? That's what
I don't even think I tried the Pro line on this, but I want to give it a shot now.
It's possible, but again, like
this level here,
Oh at least I tipped you off early on what the level's going to be about.
Yep, you did. But you almost was the intention, like as you're shooting the enemies, you have a stray shot, you might get an idea where the hole is in the wall.
Yeah, that kind of like you got to be, again, in this case, you kind of do need to know that you're going to miss. So you got to be sparing, but then when you get coming up in seconds,
right here.
Yeah, you got to be like, oh, there's one. Oh, like
yep.
Yeah, it's diabolical.
It's nuts.
This is. I'm like, this is the last level. How do I really, somebody's like, I'm the last level. I got it. I get the hang of this. I'll just avoid these guys.
I died on this part probably more than any other part of the game.
I can tell.
It's really neat seeing, with the long play, kind of seeing what kind of a playthrough looks like.
That's a really cool switch. I like, especially
here I got lost.
You can.
But I like when 7800 games have different. It seems like a lot of the original releases, they lose the ability to come up with new stuff. Like Atari Warriors gets really rudimentary. Midnight Mutants too.
Yeah.
The more it's like, oh, this is a great game, and as you go, it gets kind of worse. I like when games kind of do the reverse here on this system. Very good job, Todd.
Thank you. No, this is like something where you're never quite sure if it's going to come together, and
right.
Yeah, and it's great to see. Yeah, did I pace it out right? Did I, did I put all the cool stuff up front? Did I hide all the, all the really cool stuff behind, places where people never get to? And
this game's a head trip too. You think you're about to die, you take 2 or 3 shots, and then you're like, oh, I'm okay.
Yeah, no, the shield was relatively late, and it used to be just double damage or a double score, and then
really?
But then there was that wasn't a good enough incentive besides the speed. But the shield just gave you that little edge, I think.
Well, this game's all about defeating it.
Was it S?
Glory.
Yosphorus.
I like this. This kind of reminds me of like a griffin almost, or it has a lion head, right?
Yeah.
Or a newborn baby.
Yeah.
As a friend of mine who was testing it dubbed him Little Lord Fauntleroy, and now I'm never going to let that down.
I think this was the toughest boss for me, which makes sense because it's the last boss, quote unquote.
7, it's the 7 Deadly Sins. Again, I changed out a couple things because Dragon of Gluttony, Dragon of Fangs is a little more edgy than Gluttony.
Yeah. Okay. So it was
glory instead of pride, because you're not like.
Okay.
Even though with Lionhead pride, but
so it's the 7 Deadly Sins. Okay.
Yeah, I figured that out in World 4, John.
Did you?
Yes, it was rad.
Let's see.
But you can get things here where you unloaded a good half dozen shots and.
Yep.
Ooh, you got him.
Beat the game. Oh wait.
Oh my God! Did you? Look at this crap.
Look at this guy.
First time you saw this, were you like, oh, blankety blank?
Yeah.
You let out a harpy. You let out a harpy's curse.
Yeah. This is cruel and unusual, right here.
Well, he doesn't look that rough.
No, he ain't. I mean, you could have been a lot meaner with this boss, and I think you probably should have been, really.
I think, yeah. Well, if you get this far, yeah, he helms in on you, so you can kind of, you know.
But he is a wall. He is kind of a wall. You can't really go past him.
No, you can't.
That's his gimmick.
And he's the only one who has dragons as his vanguard, as his buddies.
Yep.
So those are.
Oh, you got him. Good job.
Got him.
Looks like a pile of intestines.
Here's spoiler alert.
Oh, they're gonna have sex.
Yep.
Okay. Dig it. They turn green? Turn green?
Gold. Ain't it gold?
Well, the desert turned green.
The Dragon of Thorns.
So yeah, they're all kind of, each of the dragons is 2 of the 4 elements, but then yeah, you combine them. I decided to do like, life, kind of combining all of it, and then kind of having a plant motif. But Dragon of Thorns, again, sounds a little more, it has a bit more of an edge than like Dragon of Plants, Dragon of Leaves.
That's a pretty terrible score, man.
Yeah, a little bit.
So does this go through the cast of characters like Dragon's Descent or no?
No, I have like 38 bytes left. I had no space beyond this ending, so I would have if I could have.
It still was a good ending. I like that.
Yeah, I liked them combining. It was a good reward. It kind of make you felt like you did something.
Well, it also made you feel like there's a story coming up.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's coming up. You got anything else in this universe that we should know about, or is
like I'm Harpy's Curse again? I'm trying making a Metroidvania, which again, Midnight Mutants, notwithstanding, like not really, not many on the 7800. Playing with don't really have a good title yet. I don't think I'm playing around, but making a platformer, because even in this era, platformers everywhere, but the 7800 has Scrapyard Dog and Crystal Quest, which is great, but Nintendo. Yep. If I made a platform for the NES, I mean, that's throw it on the pile. There's hundreds, and honestly some pretty good ones. So it's like it's going to be hard for me to kind of get in the ring against like Super Mario Brothers 3, but
it'll be available at PRG, right? PRG.
That's what I'm shooting for, and should be able to play a good chunk of it at the very least. And I'm going to try to get everything that I can. We're talking with Al to get the print materials and stuff ready, which always takes time.
Man, thank you for being here, and I'm always going to be Team Storms.
Yep.
So if we ever have a volleyball or super dodgeball or something, I'm on the blue team. But man, great game, and you should be very proud. And thank you for making all these guys, but you as well.
Yeah.
Thank you for making stuff that's fun to look at and weirds our friends out. My friends always come in here and they're like, "What is this shit? What? They make what? They still make this?" And it's just a lot of fun.
To anybody that's interested, all 3 of these games, Atariage, they're awesome.
Dragon's Cash, Dragon's Descent, and Dragon's Havoc. John, you got anything from my man over here?
Yeah, no, thanks for being on. Thanks for answering our questions, and God, thanks for the awesome games.
Yeah, thank you all for playing. This has been great. Like love the 7800 Forever site. It's always whenever I release something, I'm like, okay, what are they going to say about this one? But it's also a great resource. Yeah, you have every game. Like it's a wonderful resource, and it's honestly it's a pleasure to watch. Again, watch someone play through. Like you often make this stuff and you send it out, and you're like, is anybody even paying attention?
But I'll tell you, I was a big fan of Dragon's Descent. You'll never. It's one of my top 10, probably 7,800 games. So.
Thank you. Now that's that was one of my other little goals is I was trying a couple of different genres. So if you don't like one in the trilogy, you probably will like the others. Yeah. If you don't like shmups, you like try a puzzler. And Dragon's Cash was good. Man, thank you so much for staying with us. And it's a little over, and I know you probably got things to do, but man, it's great stuff.
Blast. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.